Maggie, you know Trump well. You're probably one of the best reporters who knows Trump and what he's thinking. Why is he escalating his threats to his political opponents that he deems, quote, the enemy within? Why is this his closing message, less than 3 weeks until the election?
Because it's what he wants to talk about, and because he was told earlier in the election cycle that he shouldn't talk about retribution because it was problematic with some voters. And for whatever reason, his language, and I think we can point to a couple of reasons, but his language has gotten much darker, it has gotten much more apocalyptic, and he has gotten far less concerned about what threatening people might mean.
And he's railing against Kamala Harris, as he always does, but especially on social media, writing this, and I'm quoting him now: Kamala should be investigated and forced off the campaign, and Joe Biden allowed to take back his rightful place. Why is he still so obsessed with Biden?
It's a great question. He has been fixated on this, Wolf. He continues to believe that it was unfair that Democrats changed out their nominee. He believed he had this essentially in the bag against Joe Biden. The atmosphere at the Republican National Convention was jubilant. They were all on a high. They believe it was right after the assassination attempt in Butler, and they believed that they were heading into a lock. And that obviously has not been the case. Now, he still may win. It's a very tight race, but it has been a much more competitive race than it looked like it was going to be after the Trump-Biden debate, and he's very angry about it.
Maggie, I noticed that your New York Times colleague Michael Bender wrote this about the concern from Trump's advisors about his rambling campaign speeches, and so many of them have been totally rambling. And he writes this: they worry that Mr. Trump's impetuousness and scattershot style on the campaign trail needlessly risks victory. What are you hearing about this?
There's been a concern about his speeches and the length of those speeches for quite some time. They've been trying for months to get him to shrink them down. If you compare, and Peter Baker talked about this, another colleague, in a recent piece, the speeches were shorter in 2016, and they were less angry, and they were more coherent. They are concerned that voters are just going to see this sort of unfiltered, meandering version of Trump, and that it is going to damage him, because that is what gets picked up in local coverage much more than anything else.
So why do you think his speeches are getting crazy like that?
Well, I don't exactly think that his speeches were ever, the works of Shakespeare, right, in terms of being sort of straight and linear, but he has always meandered. He has always, drifted off into various tangents and so forth. I think he's very angry. I think that a number of things have happened this year. I think he was convicted in Manhattan. Then he had an assassination attempt where he was, millimeters away from losing his life. And then he suddenly was facing a new opponent. And I think he is disoriented by all of that.
It's obviously shaking him up. As you know, Kamala Harris is out there campaigning in Wisconsin today. I want you to listen to what the Wisconsin GOP, the Republican chairman of the Wisconsin Party, Republican Party, said about Harris's visit there. Listen to this.
Kamala Harris coming into Wisconsin to do 3 cities in one day out of nowhere. They're seeing the same polling we are, and that is they are in trouble in that blue wall, and that blue wall is not built right now.
So is the Trump team, the campaign, confident they can retake Wisconsin and other states in the so-called blue wall?
I wouldn't say that they're confident that they can retake them. They are very hopeful that they can retake them. They're feeling good about their chances in all 3. They think in particular Wisconsin and Michigan right now look good for him, but we are still 19 days out from Election Day, and a lot can change.
And not necessarily Pennsylvania.
Not necessarily Pennsylvania. That is a tough one, and it's tough for both of them, frankly. But they are feeling very good about Michigan and Wisconsin at the moment.
He's going to that Al Smith dinner in New York tonight. What do you think we should be looking for?
For him to make all kinds of jokes at the expense of some of the people sitting in the room with him, and for him to say things about Kamala Harris that are similar to what he says on the campaign trail. But I mean, that is very much it's a mixed room politically, but it's a pretty hospitable environment for Trump. The irony is that it is filled with the kind of elites who he trashes all the time.
Kamala Harris decided to not attend.
And there's, I think, zero cost to her skipping this, despite complaints otherwise. Yeah.
All right, we'll monitor that as well. All right, thanks very much, Maggie Haberman.